If you're old enough to remember the year 2008, and if you're watching this channel, I'm guessing you probably are since 2/3 of the viewers are over age 55, then you probably remember a time when you and your wife, or your husband, as the case may be, would go to Walmart on a Friday night, you'd do all your Walmart shopping, and then on the way out, you'd grab a movie from the DVD bargain bin to watch when you got home. Throw in some Chinese takeout, maybe a box of red wine, and you've got yourself a hot date night in suburbia, especially if the kids are sleeping over at a friend's house. But I digress. The point being, that is exactly how I first became acquainted with Russell Brand, by fishing a copy of Forgetting Sarah Marshall out of the Walmart DVD bargain bin. I don't think I had ever heard of the movie before, but it was a Judd Apatow picture, and obviously these were the days when he was still making funny movies and hadn't yet become just another dull, sanctimonious Hollywood wokester douchebag. And we had both enjoyed the 40-year-old virgin and Knocked Up, so all in all, it was a pretty easy pick for $5. And we very much enjoyed this picture too, and Russell Brand, whom neither of us had ever heard of before, well, he was the best part of it, playing Aldous Snow, a note-perfect parody of your typical empty-headed rock star who tries to project an image of political erudition and just winds up looking like an ignorant, naive dumb shit. We thought this guy was absolutely hilarious and carried the movie, and Lady Curmudgeon, well, she found him quite dreamy indeed, because, come on, all women find Russell Brand quite dreamy indeed. She immediately announced that he was going on her list, you know, the list of celebrities where your spouse agrees to give you a free pass should the opportunity ever present itself. And so far as I know, he remains there in pride of place in the top spot right up to the present day. He performed 2 songs for that movie's soundtrack in character as Aldous Snow, fronting his fictional band Infant Sorrow, both of which I loved at the time and still love. The one was We've Got to Do Something, which has a wonderful spoken word passage that I performed on this very program back during episode 100 and something. And also Inside of You, which is, I shit you not, the #1 most played song in my entire iTunes library. After that, Forgetting Sarah Marshall became one of our go-to movies that we would turn on pretty much any time at all. So it was great, with great delight, that we read the announcement sometime in 2009 that they were making a dedicated Aldous Snow picture called Get Him to the Greek to be released in the fall of 2010. And as part of that movie's promotion, it was announced there was going to be a special, one-off, one-time-only Infant Sorrow concert up at the Roxy in LA, and we bought tickets the first day they went on sale. And it was a great night, just fun as hell, especially in light of the fact that Russell Brand, the frontman of the fictional band, showed up seeming to not know he was supposed to be giving a musical performance, so he comes out and does a few minutes of awkward stand-up while the band members all stand around looking unsure of what exactly to do. And finally, Brand says, "Okay, folks, I'll be back in just a moment, and we'll get on with the concert." You see, the thing was, it had been probably almost a year since they had recorded the soundtrack album, and he had forgotten all the lyrics. So they just needed a few minutes for somebody to scribble all the words down on some notebook paper for him to read during the performance. But he carried it off pretty well. I mean, as well as you can carry it off when you're singing the songs while holding a stack of paper directly in front of your face. And I can't really throw stones on that account anyway, since I am always reading my lyrics off of the laptop screen when I sing my own songs, so now you know why I always wear sunglasses. And when the movie came out, it was just okay, really. Not bad, but not as good as we wanted it to be, or frankly, it could have been with a better script. But we were still fairly big Russell Brand fans, big enough to attend 2 of his stand-up shows over the next couple of years. And I absolutely hate stand-up comedy, so that's really saying a lot. But Get Him to the Greek did produce a fantastic soundtrack album, an album that I still love, and it has a handful of legitimately great songs on it. Furry Walls, Riding Daphne, Bangers, Beans and Mash, Fucking on Heroin. All of those tunes have a special place in my heart. After 2012 or so, I mostly lost track of Russell Brand up until he re-emerged as a podcaster just a couple years ago. And when I watched a few of his episodes, it confirmed something about the guy that I had always sort of suspected, that there was a fairly robust intellect and a fairly deep thinker hiding behind that facade of the zany, hedonistic, sex junkie comedian. But then he did the thing you're never, ever supposed to do. He began asking reasonable questions about some of the most sacrosanct establishment narratives. So now, right on cue, he is being accused of being a serial rapist, because of course he is. And as you might expect, I have much to say on the matter. Jim Eagle, hit the music if you please. From high atop the battlements of Castle Curmudgeon, where in the immortal words of Aldous Snow, there will always be a little African child trapped in me. Good evening, Mr. and Mrs. America on all ships at sea. Welcome to the program. I am your eponymous host and humble servant. And stop me if you have heard this story before. The liberal establishment decides they view someone as a threat, and within a matter of 48 to 72 hours, in an obviously highly well-coordinated multi-front campaign of personal destruction, that person is branded a serial sex predator in the mainstream fake news media based on 15 to 20-year-old anonymous allegations that are impossible to definitively prove or disprove. Then they get dropped like a radioactive hot potato by their professional representatives. Then all their upcoming appearances get canceled. Then their YouTube channel gets summarily demonetized. Now, just so there is no room here for ambiguity, I'm going to come right out and say this, and I will probably make it the title of the episode also. All decent people of conscience have a moral obligation to stand with Russell Brand. But wait, I hear you say. What if these monstrous allegations of this depraved criminal malfeasance wind up being true? Well, that changes nothing. Because insane societies with a functioning moral center that give a single damn about the rule of law, you can't support a man being unpersoned, deplatformed, and having his livelihood taken away who has not been charged with any crime, much less convicted in any court of law. That type of shit is not supposed to happen in societies that claim to be civilized and enlightened. I don't care if you like Russell Brand or you can't stand the guy, or if you've never heard of him before. Decent people have to oppose this crap. Full stop. Otherwise, it never ends. Otherwise, this is the fate that awaits every single commentator who deigns to start asking questions that our self-appointed overlords don't think should be asked. Whether it's the military-industrial complex, the climate-industrial complex, the pharmaceutical-industrial complex, the fake news-industrial complex, the public health-industrial complex, the social media-industrial complex, or any of the damn other industrial complexes under whose boot heels we are all so privileged to live. And in case this Russell Brand thing is all news to you, it began a few days ago with a very well-coordinated hit job by 3 British legacy media news outlets, including the taxpayer-subsidized Channel 4. And this stuff has obviously been in the works for many months because, and this is totally unprecedented, I think, Channel 4 was all ready to go with these video segments where 3 actresses, you heard me right, actresses, sit on camera and read from the statements of the supposed sexual assault victims while the same maudlin piano music plays in the background that accompanies every fake news media video segment that is supposed to make the viewer feel sad and empathetic. You've heard me say it before, but it bears repeating. You can always tell the emotions the fake news media want you to feel by the music they play over their slickly produced dramatic productions, in this case, like literal dramatic productions. I mean, they must have had to do an actual casting call to find the actresses to portray these anonymous accusers. So, your tax dollars at work, Mr. and Mrs. Britton. I'm sure you must be very proud. And then, within less than a day, the rest of the very predictable dominoes began to fall. Agent cuts ties with Russell Brand, reads the first headline. Venues cancel upcoming Russell Brand appearances, reads the second. Russell Brand demonetized on YouTube, reads the third. And that last one is pretty interesting because I can't find anything in YouTube's community guidelines saying they reserve the right to demonetize your channel based on decades-old anonymous allegations appearing in the British press. In fact, those guidelines seem to state pretty clearly and unambiguously that demonetizing only happens after repeated violations of the guidelines and the issuance of multiple warnings. But I'm not aware of Russell Brand's channel receiving any such strikes or any warnings, so the objective observer is left with little choice but to conclude that they were looking for any reason to throttle this guy's channel, and they leapt at the first one that presented itself. It's not like there could have been much of a deliberative process here, since the demonetizing happened within, a day and a half of the anonymous, unsubstantiated allegations first emerging? Very classy, YouTube. It totally doesn't look like you guys have a political axe to grind. Just not at all. Hell, if my channel ever gains a sufficient audience that I start being perceived as a political inconvenience, I have little doubt that I will also be accused of being a serial rapist. Except I do enjoy one advantage that Mr. Brand does not, namely, no track record of sexual promiscuity. So if some fake news media performance artist scumbag piece of shit tries to track down every sex partner I have had in my adult life, well, they'll only have one door to knock on, and I'll be the one answering it. Oh, please come in. Can I offer you a beverage while I go fetch my wife? So, yeah. Best of luck with that project, guys. Can't wait to see what you come up with. But hell, I guess that didn't keep Brett Kavanaugh safe, did it? They managed to come up with multiple women whom he had never even met who were willing to testify in public under oath before the U.S. Congress that he had sexually violated them against their will. So I guess James Carville was right 30 years ago when he said, you drag a $100 bill through a trailer park, there ain't no telling what you find. And it's worth noting also that during the period in question, when they now want you to believe he was a serial sex predator, when he never said things that made powerful people uncomfortable, Russell Brand was absolutely adored by the media establishment, just as Donald Trump used to be right up until the moment he became a Republican presidential candidate. Oh, that Russell, he's so zany and wacky and funny. Look how many women he screws. Isn't it cute? And we need to take a moment here to talk about the so-called Me Too movement, about what it originated as and how it metastasized into the hideous weaponized cudgel of personal destruction that it is today. Just another tool that evil bastards use to silence their critics when things start getting inconvenient. Because I think people have been entirely too quick to forget, as they often are about far too many things in our current age of 3-second attention spans. Now, Me Too originated as a response to the Harvey Weinstein scandal, as a hashtag that actresses used to signify, yes, me too. I have been abused on a casting couch, or yes, me too. I've had a scumbag producer force himself on me in a hotel room. And that was a good and proper thing, because Hollywood absolutely is full of depraved sex predators who use their positions of power to victimize young women and satisfy their own sexual appetites, just as it always has been for more than 100 years. But as with most things that start out as morally correct campaigns to expose actual criminals, it only took about 5 minutes before Me Too was repurposed into a sort of rhetorical Swiss Army knife that unscrupulous people in positions of power could use to make their critics disappear. And that's pretty much all it is now. And you know who that really sucks for? Actual victims of sexual violence. It really sucks for them when a sitting U.S. senator like the idiot Mazie Hirono of Hawaii says something like, we have to believe all women, and men should sit down and shut up. Which is an actual thing she actually said, by the way, and for no better reason than because she wanted to destroy a man that Donald Trump had nominated to the Supreme Court. Rape allegations are now just a thing you dream up and promote in order to achieve whatever short-term political end you're trying to achieve. Rape allegations now have to be automatically viewed with skepticism because the liberal political establishment and the fake news performance artists who carry their water and dutifully follow their orders have made a habit of using fake rape allegations to destroy anyone they view as a threat. It is a monstrous insult to women who have been actual victims of sex crimes. And do you think they ever lose 1 single second of sleep over it? Come on, of course they don't. Because that would require a functioning conscience. Now, is it possible that Russell Brand is actually a serial rapist and these impeccably well-timed allegations are really true? Well, sure, lots of things are possible. And it's impossible for anybody to know what really happened except the two people who were in the room 15 or 20 or 25 years ago, or however the hell long it was. But the idea that these supposed victims never felt the inclination to come forward and seek justice until they were contacted many, many years later by fake journalists acting as part of a very obviously orchestrated campaign of personal destruction against a man who has recently gained a very large following by questioning some of the establishment's most sacred narrative dogmas? Well, that's a bridge too far for this reporter. The actresses, the piano music, the lightning-quick reactions from the talent agency and the venue managers and the video platform. I'm supposed to believe that was all just an amazingly serendipitous series of coincidences? And I'm supposed to believe it for no better reason than believe all women and sit down and shut up? No, I will not. I refuse. Because the people making the allegations have long since forfeited the right to enjoy the benefit of the doubt, and they damn well did that to themselves. By their own repeated acts of dishonesty and their own well-documented willingness to use false allegations of sexual impropriety to silence and wreck the lives of anybody they perceive to be their political enemy. My skepticism is something you people earned for yourselves, fair and square, so you all can damn well lie in the bed you've made and reap the whirlwind you've chosen to create. And I will reiterate the fact, because it needs to be reiterated, that this man has not been charged with any crime. We have nothing but anonymous accusations, actresses on camera, and maudlin piano music. And I wouldn't hesitate to say all these same things if the subject of the allegations was a guy I never heard of before, or a guy whose political views I found abhorrent, or even a guy who I thought, yeah, I could picture that dude being a rapist. Why? Because we are supposed to be civilized people who live in enlightened Western democracies. That means we don't hang people in the court of public opinion, and we don't support such hangings. We are supposed to stand up for a man's rights, any man's rights, unless and until he is judged guilty by a jury of his peers in a court of law. And if we can't even manage that much, then the tenets of the liberal democracy that our forefathers fought and bled and died for, well, they are well and truly dead. And so, I stand with Russell Brand, and you should stand with him too. Thanks very much indeed for watching. Have a great day and a pleasant tomorrow. I will see you next time. Do not comply. Get off my lawn.